Okay, let's take a look at task filtering. You don't have to stop and use this tab. You can go directly to the task browsing tab and start looking. But for large schedules where you want to focus on certain areas of the scope, filtering is the way to go. By default, all tasks are present. Really, no filtering is going on. So to start filtering, hit the Begin Filtering button. It clears all tasks out, and you're ready to add more into the filter. Remember that you can always hit the All Tasks button to bring back the entire project. Okay, let's talk about the filtering criteria. We have description contains, starts with, ends with, same with the IDs, task types, float ranges, status. We have float paths, look ahead and calendar days, preds of a particular task, successors, loose starts, loose finishes, WBS bands. If you select one, you get all the children, constrained tasks and various subsets of those. If a baseline is loaded, you can filter on variances, on new tasks that are not in the baseline. A little later in this tutorial, we'll talk about filtering on code values. You can pick a code that has a value or a particular value. Okay, let's try an example. Let's begin filtering, result set down to 0. Let's type complete in the description contains and go add. So we just added 132 tasks now that are in the filter set. Let's say further though, we want to take these and we only want those with high float. So we're going to hit this button here in the total float greater than 100, but we're going to hit the int for intersection. We'll explain in a second. And now that took out 24 tasks, and we're left with 108 that have the word completed in it and that have high float values. These buttons always work by combining the current result set with the current criterion, but each button type, add, remove, or int, does it in a different way. The add button adds every task in the project that meets the criterion to the current result set to form a new, larger result set. It doesn't care what was in the result set before. It just adds or builds the set. This is a union or logical OR operation. The remove button removes any task from the current result set that matches the criterion, leaving a reduced result set. This set is basically what is left over. These are logical NOT operations, except the NOTs are removed. The int stands for intersection. Perhaps the simplest explanation is to say that it looks at each task in the current result set and checks if it meets the int criterion. If the task passes, it remains in the result set. If not, it is discarded, leaving a reduced result set. This is a logical AND operation, which, if you remember from your 7th grade Venn diagrams, is an intersection. Let's look at an abstract example of VU operations. Here is our universe of all tasks. First, we set the result set to 0 by hitting the Begin Filtering button. If we add all reds with the Add button, it would look like this. If we added all A's with the Add button, it would look like this. If we removed all B's with the Remove button, it would look like this. If we intersected all blues with the Int button, it would look like this. If we want to see all tasks again, we would hit the Add All Tasks button, and we would again see. Let's do another real-world example. We'll begin filtering and say we want to look at all near-term tasks with negative variance. These would be problem tasks. So we go to the look ahead, we do a 30-day look ahead filter, we add it in there, we get 74 tasks. Then we want to pick some those with negative variance. We'll pick the one start variance, negative start variance. We'll do an intersection, and we're left with 10 tasks, which we could begin to examine at the task browsing. Or we can directly report on these tasks by hit the report filter tasks. And there it gives every task and their stats there. Or we could look at those tasks and look at the logic that accompanies them there in this manner. The externals to filtered runs a logic report of all externals to the filtered set. As detailed in the help file, this can be useful in schedule development where an old fragnet is being replaced by a new one. Basically, use this report to get the external ties, delete the old fragnet, import the new fragnet, make similar ties from the new fragnet to the rest of the schedule according to the report. Let's run a sample. We're running it off these same 10 tasks. Here's the pre-filter list. There's the external predecessor relationships, successor relationships. As promised, let's cover activity code filtering. If you want to filter by code values or user-defined fields, you must first go to the File Operations tab and have the current schedule loaded. Then you can select the code field you want to use and then hit the load the code's fields. Notice that you can filter by codes or again user-defined fields. Now we go back to the task filtering tab. Okay, so let's begin filtering with these. We have responsible status are loaded now. We could pick just any non-blank value and add that to the filter, but we want to look at good old Joe Blow, and then we hit the add button, and then that gives us 19 tasks that we can then go and browse. Note that we can also run the externals to filtered on these tasks so that Joe can see how his tasks tie to the rest of the project. We hope this tutorial has given you a good understanding of VU's simple but serviceable task filtering capabilities. We look forward to seeing you at part 5 of this tutorial, Logic Reports.